Chapter 7. He was crucified.
In the dead of night, the nocturnal animals stage their plays in the faraway forest and valleys. I hear the nightingales sing the ad-lib assortment of tunes. The pre-fledged chicks emit strange wheezing calls. I heard the belching of rutting red deer stags. They fight with each other with their ferocious clashing of antlers, leaving a hard, bleak sound echoing in the woods. My companions and I stood on the treetops watching the city. I saw Jesus and his people coming through the woods. Jesus was ahead of the students. He kneeled down on a rock bed and prayed. He prayed in tears. "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will but yours be done." I have never seen him praying so distressfully. I knew something terrible would come. Later, one of his students called Judas came with a crowd of armed men. We and the owls were alarmed by the roars and the torch fires coming to us. The crowd could not see clearly in the night, so they waved their torch fires in front of people's faces. The students realized they came to arrest Jesus and themselves, so they fled. Judas kissed Jesus. I heard Jesus ask him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" The large crowd bound Jesus. Their torch fires formed a long line forcing Jesus to the center of the town. People now came to a person's house for a trial in the night. I used to like the human trial court. These humans' trial court is a clever way to solve any disputes, not like us only combat to death. In their court they take turns to speak up. Even an evil killer has a chance to speak for himself. No one can beat or kick a suspect during a trial. I have tried to persuade my eagle companions to set up a trial court among us. But none of us eagles knows what to do next. I guess we need scholars like humans. But tonight was very wrong. The man put on trial was Jesus, their teacher. He was in front of a group of learned men. He looked tired now. A wind blew on me, so I glided over the court to hear what they said. This court was not quiet and orderly like others, because these learned men mocked and shouted at him. Jesus spoke very little. He was accused of declaring himself the Christ, and the Son of God. He only answered when their questions were about if he is the Son of God. "My master, why didn't you speak? You were silent like a lamb to the slaughter." The slaughterhouse is where I saw crows and raccoons lust for leftover blood on the ground. You learned men, didn't you see him teaching the common men and they love him? Some of you were also listening to him and received his word lights in the daytime, but now you reject him in the night? If what he said is false, it will fail and you do not need to deal with it. If what he said is true, why do you reject him? After the whole night of accusations, the learned men sentenced Jesus the death penalty. But they could not execute the death penalty because they were subject to the governor. So they have to turn Jesus to the Roman governor and soldiers to execute. That moment the wind stopped suddenly and I almost fell to the ground. I cried. I realized the human trial court can be unjust, and witnesses can be false. These learned men agreed to turn him to the governor as soon as possible. Early in the morning, they bound Jesus and handed him over to their governor named Pilate. Now I saw Judas remorse bitterly. He went to the temple to find the learned men to return the bag of money. But they didn't want to accept the returns. Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he hanged himself. Mice came through the tree and the rope and bit his face and arms. The smelly bloody bites attracted flies. Pilate held a court in front of the crowd. I saw two men on trial. One was Jesus, and next to him was a robber named Barabbas. I recognized him as evil because of the dark cloud on his head. The governor asked the crowd which one to release. The mob voiced loudly, "Barabbas." The governor asked why and asked what to do with Jesus. The mob voiced loudly, "Crucify him, crucify him." The Roman soldiers took Jesus to execution. Their outcry overwhelmed all the birds on the treetops, so we all flew away. Barabbas left proudly. We have seen crucifixions on the hilltop outside the city before. Any evil man is hung on a cross for days until he dies. Soldiers always stripe any valuables, including undergarments, before execution. A naked body is easy for the crows and vultures to tear apart the flesh. Now I saw the Roman soldiers forced my master to carry a large wooden cross that is more than he can carry. Later, they arrived at the hilltop. My master's hands were spreaded out and hammered to the wood. Then the cross was raised up. 2 evil men were crucified too. I heard their hand bones break. This excruciating pain made one of the criminals cursing and shouting. His scratchy voice was annoying, so a crow came to pluck his eyes out. The other robber rebuked him. "Don't you fear God? We are getting what we deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong." He was panting and speaking to my master sorrowfully. "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." I heard my master answer him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." I saw thousands of the angel army in the heavens watching solemnly. They waited on the master's order. If they march on, all the creatures will follow them and trample the hilltop. My master, why don't you say anything? You could have asked all of us to rescue you from these detestable humans. It wouldn't be hard for me to drive out the soldiers, beat them to death, and tear them apart. My master, why don't you say anything? It wouldn't be hard for the angel army to carry you off the cross and restore you to your majestic throne. Why do you allow humans to humiliate you? My companions hovered above and cried out. We hated the crows and the vultures approaching you. We drove them away. I heard women weeping. It was still daytime, but the queens of the darkness came and the whole earth became dark. I heard the Master say, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Then he gave up his spirit. After his words, a large earthquake came and broke off the borders of the high cliffs. The birds flew up, the deer ran to the woods, and all the earth creatures hid underground. The nocturnal animals in the forest were scared. The terrified soldiers exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." A good soldier named Centurius was beating his chest and crying, "I killed my teacher and the Son of God. Why didn't I have the guts to refuse my commander's order? He said to me, I should have risked my life for a good man." I stood and listened to him. I saw Centurius before when Jesus preached to the crowd. He always listened and his heart was full of the word lights. "Centurius, I mourn with you, but it's now too late.